Thank you for reminding me. Oops. Okay. It's all done. Oops. Thank you, Hulk, for subscribing. Anyone that hasn't been in here, I'm mostly just doing this in silence, but if anyone has anything to ask me about, please feel free. The magic brush I use. Are you asking me which brush I use most often, or? Okay. Oh, by the way, there's probably a slight delay, so if it seems like I'm answering you way later, that might be why. um, give me 1 second. I'll delete these. So this is the brushes that I have that I use for coloring. I don't use a ton of different things. In fact, I don't even use most of these. Mostly I use this, which is just like an airbrush. Just going to go to the mask because you can see it easier. So I have like just an airbrush set to opacity. I have this square brush, but I don't even remember the last time I used it. I don't know why it's still there, but it's there. Then I have a brush that's set to size and opacity. So you can see it changes size. And then I have one that is just size, and then just opacity. Some of these other ones I use, but not as much. Like I have this like angled brush, which I don't really use it very often, but I have it there. And some of these I use occasionally. Like I have this to add like little speckles to stuff sometimes. Don't use it a lot. On this, I probably won't use these very much, but I do use these on like Wayward and some other stuff where it's like a textured brush. Or this one, just like a more painterly looking brush, is nice. And this sometimes. But again, that's less often. Those, yeah, I got a couple more. But yeah, these even less so. This I've started using a little bit more. I had a few. I was doing like a book in like a watercolor style, and I was using these for that. But I've also started using it on certain projects. Just depends on what it is to do some rendering. But I probably won't be using it on this, or if I do, it'd be very like infrequently. Yeah. Then I had like some like kind of like an airbrush, but like have a little bit of like spatter to it sometimes. But again, I don't use these a lot. The painterly one, I don't know where I got that. I didn't make it. I don't remember. It might be a default Photoshop brush for all I remember. Or it just happened to be in some pack of brushes I got at some point. Yeah, it's really nice. I've used that one a lot. Just depends on who I'm working on. So. Usually just keep another copy of it over here so I can see the whole page as I'm working. Probably zoomed in too much. Hello, bastard. Joining us again. I don't think there is any resolving that debate, Bastard, about the best Troma movie. Although a couple people said Surf Nazis Must Die, and that movie is incredibly boring. It sounds much over the top than it actually is. The navigator's tiny. You're talking about... I don't even know where it is because I don't use it. But, yeah, I just have it up so I can see a copy of the page, like the full page. Because I get zoomed in like this, and sometimes you can lose focus on what you're doing. I know you can resize the navigator, but it's going to kind of get in the way. The left side of the screen I don't really use, so such a large screen. Doing this too much. Quick rundown of the process. Well, let's see. I get these flats. These are the flats. That's the flatter sends them to me. And what I was doing earlier, I don't know if you were in here, is I went through and corrected, like color corrected the flats to the palette that I'm using. So that was the original flatter colors, and then I adjusted those, and then I was doing these separations. Also separate the panels. This way I can just select an entire panel, right? Like easily. And then these separations, I'm just breaking out the forms. Oops, I missed something here. Breaking up the forms so that I can easily select them and color them without grabbing other stuff and not having to, like, you know, otherwise if you're pulling from the flats, you have to go like, I'm gonna get his skin, I'm gonna get his hair, I'm gonna get this. Then it also selects it in every other panel. This way it's just quicker and easier to, I just want this thing, this grouping. So I did that, and so on top of the flats I put like a little like redness for their skin. It's like you can see on his face. I've added that here. And then I threw this levels layer over everything. It's kind of subtle. I don't know how much it shows up on here because of the compression, but like it just kind of gives it a unifying kind of feel slightly more. And I kind of use that to adjust the lighting for a page. Okay, that, and then I make these rendering folders, which you've seen me using just now. Just like here, I put in, there's these color fill layers. I have an action set up so I can do it easily, but it's in, I have to remember because I have that action. I don't do it very often. Under fill layer, you can do like solid color, right? So I did that. This one's set to multiply, which is why it looks so orange. You can see the color here. And then I threw an extra one over it that like kind of colorizes that at about 30%. At 30%, so it just kind of gives it like these kind of, they're still kind of warm, but like a bit purplish shadows. That's in this group here, and then I use masks to color that on. If you see this, like all of the white or lighter areas, that's where it turns on the mask. So like if I push shift and it makes this X, right? That means it's ignoring the mask and it's just on completely. So that's what it would be doing. But then you use the mask to selectively apply it, which is how I apply the rendering. And then I just make other rendering layers. So like this is like a darker. I picked this color because it's just really dark. It's not pure black. You don't want to mix with pure black. But I made this really dark, like kind of blue color, and I use that very selectively. Like if you see, like it's not heavily applied, I wouldn't want to use it in this like full state here. But I'll do it a little bit to kind of push the shadows slightly in certain areas. Gives it a slightly extra like definition and stuff. I have this other multiply layer. It just serves the same purpose, but I use this to like, I was using it more for the background stuff. Then I make this levels layer, which again I'm going to turn it on so you can see like, excuse me, it's applying this kind of like bluish, purplish kind of light to everything. And I just like selectively apply that to his face. And I haven't started this yet really, but then I've got this for like extreme highlights. So I did a little bit on his face here. And then you look at the mask, you can see like it's also not applied very heavily. Yeah, that's the basic. I have, whoops, I think I moved that. I have these adjustment layers here. I just started this book, so I don't have a bunch of them. I just have this one. But I sometimes will have stuff that'll like lighten things or darken things. So that if something is kind of still mushing together, I can like push it lighter or darker. The line art, I have that set to a mask as well, and I have a folder for the line art. That way, and then I have this black layer here, so that's the line art. But if I want to colorize the lines, then I could do that easily, and it's all contained in this folder. I can make multiple layers and stuff within this folder too, Just makes it easier if you get complex color holds, which I do sometimes. For this, at least this page, it's not going to be very complicated, but I just like to have that option available to me. Then I have a special effects folder, which I'll do like glows and stuff that go over everything at the end. Um, oh, hey Nick. No, you're done. You're not gonna get anywhere. I'm sorry to say that. And hello, Valerie. No, Nick Filardi. I'm assuming that's him. His name is bright green, so it's hard for me to read. Yeah, he's a colorist also. He's fine. Not everyone does this, by the way. This is me. They think I'm crazy, but don't worry about it. You just find what works for you. This works for me. If you saw me earlier, I was masking out these panel borders. That's just so that when I do this, it's not overlapping all this stuff. Yeah, that's basically it. It becomes pretty easy once you do it. Maybe it sounds more complicated than it actually is. I forgot what I was doing. Yeah, no problem. Oh. I'm just blocking color in too, so it may look kind of awkward. I've only done, this is only the 4th page I've done of Andy's stuff. They've gone quick so far, but some of these later pages have a lot more characters in them. So I assume those are going to be a little bit tougher, and they're going to involve more color holding stuff. This, I'll color hold this because it's part of the line art. It's a whole issue unto itself that I'll get to. But so far it's been pretty easy, but I'll show you the pages I've done. Like, they've been pretty simple pages. So, like, you know, this was a page. There's only 2 characters. There's a few characters here, but not a lot. Oh, these are, oh, sorry. These are, those are not corrected for, like, print looking, so they're, like, too bright. So it's like this, and this page. And I think all of these pages took me under 2 hours. This page took me longer because I did it on stream yesterday, and then I forgot to save it, and then I had to recolor it. But each time, I think, only took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Bastard is asking about K value in colors. My opinion on that has, over time, become that I don't pay attention to that at all. That definitely has been a thing. Maybe it's still a thing, but in all the stuff I've had printed, I've never noticed an issue. But also keep in mind that I'm using the company color profile, so I'm doing a thing for Marvel right now, and so they set that up, and I don't remember how to get to it, but there's a whole complicated thing to this, and it sets the ink limits and the K limits in there, so it should convert to things that will be within that company's ink limits and the K value. I have K values that go well above 40 even sometimes, and I just don't worry about it. If it's an issue, I feel like someone will tell me, and no one's told me. So, and I check the stuff as it prints, you know, like as books come out, and I haven't noticed anything like being a problem. If anything, I've noticed in the past, I got those warnings a lot too. Like, there was one that was like really extreme. It's like, don't go beyond like 15K or something like that. It was like ridiculous. And so, like, I felt like a lot of my stuff came out very washed out looking because I was very afraid. I was very afraid to like push darker. If you're talking about this one is super dark, but I'm also not going to use this like at this strength, right? Like, so it's getting painted on, but like that's about as strong as it gets, and that's only like a middle gray, so it's only using about half of that. I would never use it at that strength. Yeah. Nick asked something. Oh wow. Yeah. Like I said, Nick, I don't know. Let me give you a little peek here, I guess. There's some stuff that comes later. I'm trying to like be a little mindful that I'm not sharing too much I'm not supposed to, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I can really show. But most of that stuff's at the end of the book. Yeah, I really don't know with RGB to CMYK, like, because I mean it converts to CMYK and it still ends up with, you know, K in it. I'll pull up a Moon Girl thing because I've gone pretty dark in some of this stuff, and I'll see what I actually end up getting. I don't go very dark in that issue. Here we go. I think this one's better, maybe. Yeah. Okay. That's okay. I'll look at both of these. Oh wait, no. Here we go. I got a good one. So I started not caring too much. Like I went really dark here. But that's 68K. You know. Yeah, I'm recording, Nick. I'll probably upload it. I don't know what I'm doing, so it may break, but I'm gonna try. Yeah, like, but this is such an open area. There's no, like, if there was like fine line work and stuff in here, I wouldn't go that dark. So it's kind of like knowing when to apply it. And since you see like a night sky, and you know when it's in, I'm gonna try to get it back to black and white here. You know, so that's like really open, and it's a night sky, and just, you know, because of that, I felt more comfortable going really dark on these pages. It's not something in the past that I would have felt comfortable doing. I haven't seen this particular issue, but I've been doing stuff like this, and it doesn't seem to be an issue. I feel like a lot of the advice you get about coloring is based on really old stuff that people don't actually know if it's true or not anymore, and they just keep repeating it throughout the years. Yeah, well, yeah, your colors are going to change in conversion. Right now I'm working, like when I showed you that earlier. Oops, sorry, I have it on this other screen here, so I didn't see it. Like, if you... I have it open already, I don't know why I did that. But, like, this is what this looks like in RGB. I work with the CMYK preview on that. Like, if you look at her sword, where that blue light is, like, that is a color that will never print. But if you turn on CMYK preview, you see what it's going to look like and what it's going to convert to. So I know what it's going to look like the whole time I'm working on it, so I don't get like an unrealistic set of expectations. Because yeah, like blues, greens. See, like if you see when you pick a color, this is like this crazy fluorescent green. If it has this little exclamation mark here, that means it's not a print safe color. And if you click it, it'll pick the closest thing. But look at this. So like if you wanted something like this, this is actually the closest print color that you would get. Let me do this. And you can see that's a pretty dramatic difference. Yeah, some of those colors are just not possible to get in CMYK. Yeah, well, it's a bummer, but unless someone changes printing technology dramatically, that's what we got to deal with. But like I said, I didn't even see like the brighter version as I'm working because I have it turned in CMYK, so I don't ever get like I don't ever want that stuff even in my head to like think that it could look that way, because it's just kind of like you'll see it, the conversion, and it's going to bum you out. I think over time, like, you develop an eye for that, like which colors will actually function in RGB, or I'm sorry, will be able to be printed in CMYK, and like some of those colors just start looking offensive to your eyes, because you just know that it's not going to work. So just don't even bother. Oh man, it would be a real nightmare. I don't remember who it was. I know there was one colorist who did did different versions for print and digital. Oh my god, it's so loud. Um, in fact, let me close that so it doesn't happen again. Um, but I don't know. For me, I'd rather there just be one version. It's too hard to like try and manage that mentally. But I really enjoy purple, so it can be a bummer sometimes. You're very limited in range as far as it's like you see. There's this exclamation point, like I said, still there, still there. So like this is about as saturated as you can get, at that value. So like here, so like this whole kind of like corner, it's a pretty large area. Like you can't get that level of saturation. So it's about a quarter or more of that. For creator-owned, if I have any plans for creator-owned projects, I'm working on. I'm still as a colorist, but I'm working on creator-owned projects right now. I had Firebug came out back in March through Image. Flavor just came out on the 16th this month, also through Image. Most of the stuff that's creator-owned that I work on is through Image. And Wayward, I've been working on Wayward, which is also creator-owned, also through Image. Right now I'm only doing a couple of things for Marvel, which would be this and Moon Girl. And for DC, I'm doing a couple of things, Doom Patrol, and the other thing I can't talk about just yet, but that'll be out. Actually, that's a creator-owned thing as well, though. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. No, those are projects. The creator-owned projects are all projects that I'm coloring. I haven't initiated any of them. I mean, are you asking me if I plan to do anything other than coloring, or I'm not sure what you're asking. Usually I'm again referring to this creator-owned thing. Usually I'm approached about it, and it's mostly formed. Like a lot of times there's art and stuff even already before I do anything. That was the case on Flavor. Like, you know, he'd already started drawing stuff on it. The writing was there. So no, usually I come in after the fact on that kind of stuff. As far as me ever doing anything outside of coloring, I mean, it'd be fun to try it here and there. I have done very little bit, nothing like big, just like for an anthology or just random stuff. But it'd be nice at some point, but I'm busy coloring, and I enjoy coloring, so that tends to dominate my time. What made me choose coloring as a job? Um, I don't know. I did a lot of art stuff, growing up, and I went to the Kubert School, which is like an arts, like comic focused art school. But I'd always colored my own stuff, because you're doing everything yourself, um, and I enjoyed doing it. I used to do flats for a coloring studio, like in the 2000s, early 2000s and mid 2000s. Did a little bit while I was at school as well, but mostly before, a little bit after. So I had kind of a foot in that world a little bit, but I don't know. Just as I was getting close to graduation, I kind of kept two portfolios, like one for just coloring, because I enjoyed it and I felt like I was probably stronger at it. So, and I would get, sorry, I'm kind of trying to think and do this at the same time. Because other students there, and they go to do, work of their own, and they're not always great at coloring themselves, so they would look for someone to color them, and they would recommend me, um, and I would color some of their stuff. So then, now this artist, and the writer they were working with, and sometimes they bring you along, and so on and so forth, and it just becomes this like continuous thing, word of mouth kind of, where people recommend you for different things. You meet new people, and you just constantly keep branching out like that. So it just got to a point where I was getting jobs so often and with much less effort than other jobs. It's like, well, I guess that's what I'm doing right now. And like I said, though, I enjoy coloring, so it worked out for me. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't enjoy it as well. And at this point, I have so much stuff to do. I barely have free time, so it seems to be working out. How long did it take to get to the stage where I color full time? Well, that took a little while. So I graduated in 2009 from the Kubert School, and I was pretty lucky. I had a job outside of school that was art related. I don't know if any of you know Greg Hildebrandt, but he's a pretty known illustrator. Him and his brother. His brother had died in 2006, though, I believe. But yeah, I got offered a job to work at his home and studio, like for him and his wife. And she acts as his agent and do a bunch of other stuff. So I was doing like random little art jobs there, as far as like scanning artwork and stuff like that. Some of it was more technical though, like messing with a website or doing design things. Which, although I learned a lot of Photoshop stuff doing that, so that kind of accidentally helped me with coloring. So I worked there for a few years. While I was there, I tried to get coloring stuff, coloring jobs, on my own time. Any jobs, really, but, like I said, I got a bunch of coloring jobs. So I want to say it was 2012 when I got my first, like, published work. I'd done, like, random colors for things before that. Like I said, mostly for other students from the school. But yeah, my first thing was through Zenescope. Um, so I did that. I did several issues with of random things for them, and actually I don't know if that was 2012. That wasn't 2012. I don't know. It was a few years after. Like I don't know. Maybe it was 2012. It's hard to remember all this, but I did a few things for them, and then I did a couple of things for Dynamite, and those were like my first like real published things that weren't just like people self-publishing or whatever. Um, so I started picking up more work, and it started getting hard to have my day job and do that at the same time. So I decided to move back here because it's cheaper to live, and then try to make a go of going full time doing coloring. So I wasn't quite, I didn't have enough work at that time to be full time, but I know that I needed time to devote to it, right? So I moved back here. I'm in South Carolina now, on the Georgia border. It's like right on the border, and did some more like indie stuff and like small publisher things, and then over time just got more and more stuff. It kind of happened slowly, But I say, but from moving here is about 2 years, and so I don't know, 5 or 6 years from graduating from the Kubert School, something like that, to where I was like actually full time sustaining myself just from coloring. Sorry, it's a bit like winding kind of path, and it's like sometimes it's not always like clear cut. Uh, uh, like when something became that because you're just doing a bunch of random things. But yeah, like it was, I guess it was pretty clear for me though, because like I was kind of broke, and I actually had to borrow some money from my parents one summer, and then that same summer it like immediately like just around that time like things turned around for me to where I was then able to just uh, completely support myself, like I said, through coloring alone. But I got pretty lucky with the timing on that, because if it had gone on much longer, uh, I probably would have had to start looking for like a day job again. Yeah, I mean it's doable. I don't want to say that that's the case for everybody. But I mean, like I only started professionally coloring, like I said, in making full time. Jesus, doing it full time, and I don't know, just turned 30 or 31 or something. Some people get started like really young, and get going. Some people it doesn't take as long. Some people it takes longer. Um, so it worked out, and I think if you work at it, you can. But there can be some rough times in there for sure. And if it's something you want to do, I definitely, think you should go for it. Yeah. I mean, and look, some people definitely do it, and they still retain, day jobs. Um, Obviously, having a family and kids, that's going to require more time of you as well. But it's not impossible, And if you got and if you've got work that you're still doing, uh, you know, you have less pressure, right, to like do it quickly. Um, you're not gonna, I don't know. Like I said, that was kind of like a scary situation where I kind of just jumped in head first and was like, well, I hope this works. Luckily, it did, but but yeah, it's nice to have a backup there, and yeah, having a plan of attack too. So yeah, I would just say like focus smaller publishers because they're easier to get published through, obviously, and just kind of build up your reputation and stuff from there. It's good. Yeah, she's a good one to talk to about coloring. It's definitely good to reach out to like other people, other comics people, and then other people doing what you're trying to do, especially. So like other colorists. I find most people are pretty willing to help, if you're polite and everything to them. Oh, what advice to give to a aspiring colorist? It's so open-ended. Let me see. It's a lot of things. I don't know. I would say try to have a distinct identity in like how you color things. A lot of times, starting out, uh, people that are looking for colorists will often communicate to you saying like, "Oh, can you color like this person or this person?" And it's good to be versatile. I'm not saying you should totally ignore that, but like ultimately, you want to make sure that you're developing your own kind of recognizable style and not just becoming kind of a lesser version of someone else. Kind of like then you're just like easily replaceable, right? Just want to make sure you're bringing something unique to the thing. That was something that I like strive to try and maintain. Like sometimes I wouldn't really pay those notes much mind. Not like after the fact notes, but like if you're trying out for a job, and it's like, oh, color it like this. And if it didn't make sense to me, or I thought I could do it a better way, I would just not completely disregard it. You want to give them what they want, but find a way to do it that maybe they weren't expecting. It's like there's already like there's already a Dave Stewart, there's already a Jordi Belair, so there's no point in you just being a lesser version of one of them. Alright, Bastard, thanks for joining us. I'm not sure when I'm going to do this next. Gotta finish this book this week, and then maybe I have some different stuff to share. I'm getting pretty close to finishing here, so I'm gonna, after this page, I'm gonna turn it in. So if you have any last little things you want to ask or whatever, now would be a good time. Yeah, no problem, Nish. I'll probably take a break streaming at least 2 or 3 days. I'm gonna finish this up, and I don't think I can share every page as I work through it. But when I get working on the next book, I may be able to do this again. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna try to make sure that I record all of them from now on. When you reminded me earlier, I started recording from from about when I finish up the flats. So even if you don't get to do it live, you should be able to like have some version of it. Okay, and that's it for me. I'm done. Thanks for sticking it out. And like I said, look out. I'll try to announce it whenever I'm planning to stream again. Try to give a little bit of notice. But yeah, thanks for joining me, and see you next time.